Today we are talking about self-worth and being fully chosen in a relationship, and what it feels like when a person may overlook their own boundaries and self-worth for a perceived version of love. Welcome to Music, Spirit and Accountability with Jay Hode and Michael Cooper. So self-worth, this is huge. This is a huge thing for me. It's a huge thing for you, Mike. It's a huge thing for, I think, probably just about every person on this planet. Self-worth and being chosen in a relationship. It's so crazy how we can often ignore the warning lights at times and choose to go on these paths that we can validate the amount of times I hear about these relationships where I think he loves me. He makes me laugh so much, and we have a great time when we're intimate together. But we fight all the time, and we just don't get along. But then I just keep having enough of these kind of things. In my face that seem like relevant for me to hang on, sort of thing. Like I was going to say, kind of carrots dangling, but maybe not. Yeah, you know what I mean. It's like that kind of idea, right? So, and we kind of keep going back for more. We keep creating these stories where, I'm just going to hang on for a bit longer, just that they might turn around. And we were talking the other day about going deeper on that, and what's that core thing. And the thing that often comes up for me around that is being fully chosen. And really, when I break down all the shit, all the bullshit of all the things and all the stories and all the he said, she said, and all the but he makes me laugh and we have great sex or whatever it might be, the thing is, if I'm going to choose to be in a relationship with someone and to choose to put myself in a position where I'm going to commit to that relationship, I need to be fully chosen. And that's my truth. Oh, here we are, brother. How do you feel about that?
I remember the first time I heard the phrase fully chosen, and we were talking about intimacy and activation of the heart, the mind, the animal and the gut, and it's a deeper level of the love languages. It's a deeper level of understanding someone's intimacy, right? And you were sharing yours, and and you dropped that and said, yeah, look, all of these things, but the one is I need to be fully chosen. And man, if I had hair, it would have swept my hair back. It just went I felt this atomic bomb go off in front of me and watch that mushroom cloud go up, and the force hit me with that. It was the most beautiful thing, because that's what I deeply desire. And, I wonder how many of the listeners probably maybe feel the same, I guess, at a core underlying level. But even if not them, for me, it was like, that just spoke to me so deeply, because that was so well articulated. It's what I believed, it's what I chased, it's what I desired, but I didn't have the words for it. And it's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. And so I've absolutely outright stolen that as well. And and I fully embody that, and sometimes in life, which is where I'm at right now, is that's being tested. As the universe says, right, well, you write about this every day. You write it in your script of how you want your life to look. You write about the woman that you want to be with, and you write that you want to be fully chosen. Well, I'm going to test you. How much do you really want it? And just for full disclosure and transparency, I'm in the throes of that battle right now of not being fully chosen. I'm getting a lot of wonderful words and potential and concepts, but I'm not chosen at all. And I'm being challenged to say, well, you speak about this thing, you preach about this thing, but you're not congruent with this thing. How do you expect to have it in your life? How do you expect to hold that when you actually don't hold it for yourself? So that's just being very real. Where in my life that's what this whole podcast is about, right? It's about accountability and raw and vulnerable. And that's what's alive in me right now.
Brother, thank you so much for sharing. Really honoring your openness and vulnerability around this right now and speaking about these things. As men, it's often not as men, but it seems that men often choose not to speak about these things around their brothers, let alone on a podcast where everyone can hear and judge. So, again, honoring you, leaning into that. And, I have two questions. I was kind of going to think about taking this podcast in a bit of a different direction, but, if you're open to sharing, I have two questions. And one is, how does that make you feel, like in your heart and soul? And two is, what are you feeling to do about it?
Great questions. I feel absolutely torn I feel separated from my soul. My body's putting itself in this situation where it's not being chosen, and my soul, wants to be chosen. And I feel that separation, and that's the scariest place for a human to be, is a separated individual, because we're meant to be connected and one with our soul, and I'm going the other direction. And I'm putting myself into situations that is frightening for my soul, because it goes like, this doesn't feel right. And so it feels uneasy in the body. I'm questioning everything. I'm questioning myself, and I'm questioning my self-worth. And that comes from that separation. What am I do? I think the second question is, what am I doing about it? Or what do I feel called about it? The coach in me would, that knows the right thing to say and the right thing to do, says, mate, you should choose yourself. You know what you're worth. There's a million people who would love to choose you fully, and life would flow and it'd be effortless and easy and you'd be supported. But that's the coach. And then there's the soul that is screaming out, please choose yourself right now. This is not healthy for you. Please choose yourself. And then there's my heart attached to this 3D meat suit that I run around in, that said, well, I've invested so much time in this person, and I do love them. I have so much love for them, and care, and I've nurtured, and I've created, and I've done everything I could. And that's the one thing pulling me the other way. And so I guess the enlightened version of me, the brave one of me, the strong one of me, would say I need to choose myself and really make a hard decision and a very firm boundary and walk away. And the human in me wants to... Actually, you know what the human in me wants to do? Based on my trauma, the human in me wants to keep suffering, because I'm addicted to suffering. That's ugly to say, but that's the reality. Because I grew up in a space of suffering in my youth, in my childhood. And so that's familiar. And so even with all my knowledge and my understanding and all the things I've done, I know that I should go to this space of unconditional love, being fully chosen, a love that ebbs and flows, where I'm seen and I'm heard and I'm witnessed and supported and held. And my central nervous system wants to keep taking me back to this place of suffering, because that's what it knows.
So, understanding the principles that everything we put out into the universe is holding that current, and being manifested is really what we believe, and how we do our best to come back to accountability on the words that we speak. So, speaking the words, I'm addicted to suffering. Where does that thought process come from for you to say that right now? And is that something that you think, is that an addiction that you think you could change? Is that and is that the truth right now, do you think? Or because obviously this is very fresh, again, really honoring you for holding this space for yourself, man. Like, this is huge to be speaking about with me right now, let alone on this platform. So maybe you said that too in a bit of trigger right then as well, and maybe that's not the truth in your story. How does that all sit with you, brother?
Not at a conscious logical level, but at an unconscious pattern level. My relationship with my father was very much, I could never do enough. One more thing and I might get that love. One more thing, I might get acknowledgement. And I always craved that love, affection and attention from my father, which to this day at 47, I still don't have. and that's okay. But sorry, it's actually not okay, but I've learned to accept that. And so that suffering for me is a pattern that was developed from that young age of keep chasing something that doesn't want you, and eventually maybe you'll catch it, and then eventually maybe you'll be good enough and they'll hold you, and eventually maybe they'll witness you and see you. So that's the deep wounding from the father wound that I carry. Is it possible to fix? Yes. And I've come a long way, such a long way from where it was originally. But I can still see it playing out even in this environment right now where there's, I'm not being chosen and haven't been for quite some time. So, yeah, my addiction is not an everyday thing. And I picked this up from my sporting career where the harder it got, the better I got.
Yeah, okay. So that was kind of leads me to what I was feeling into asking is what is the benefit of an addiction to suffering now? An addiction to suffering maybe as an elite athlete could have some profound impacts with the outcome of winning the gold medal at the Olympics. Now, comparing that to a relationship, what is the benefits of being addicted to suffering to relate? Do you kind of see what I'm saying? It's kind of like two different things we're kind of speaking about here. So,
Yeah.
does it relate, or is it not so much of a benefit to maybe addicted to suffering in other aspects of your life, like you've been trained to be with sports, where it maybe is?
So that mentality served me so well in sport. Even in business when I was younger, it was also very similar. That ability to chase, handle rejection, get up again when it fails. It really served me well in my youth. And when I say it served me well, I believed it served me well, but I know otherwise now. It doesn't serve me at all. And it didn't serve me then. It got the results, but there was probably greater results that I could have, because when you are addicted to suffering, you self-sabotage as well. I would blow up so many races because of the self-sabotaging effect. So it doesn't actually serve, not then and not now. And with what I know now, the way of peace, love, flow, effortless, in alignment with universal law and universal flow is far greater and far more powerful. But that core underlying pattern, no matter how much work I've done, I don't remove it ever. It's just the strength of it and the hold of it has over me is a lot less than what it used to be. So in relation to relationships, I'm very loyal. I'm very committed to the death, because of that pattern. And sometimes for too long. That's the thing. And that's where the suffering ties in. I hold on too many chances, too many hopeful things, too many carrots, as you said. One more time, one more time. Yeah, and when is one more time enough? And how many times are you going to say one more time?
So there's that beautiful quality. I feel like I kind of get it now. That addicted to suffering, how that can play out in a really positive way, possibly in a relationship. As far as that kind of old school, like I'm here to the end, no matter what. Like I'm going to stand by you no matter what through the good times and the hard times and everything in between. And then I think that kind of loops back to our initial starting topic of being fully chosen and. That honoring of self-worth, that I am all that, I am able to suffer through all of these beautiful things in life. There's hard and easy and all the things in between, that obviously when the times are hard there's usually something epic that comes from that to greener pastures ahead. But at the core of that too, I feel like in my truth, if I'm not being fully chosen, and that lesson alone took me many, many years to learn, going deeper and deeper and deeper, there's no point in enduring the suffering if if I'm not being fully chosen, and even that in itself can ebb and flow, to go through that in a relationship and speak that truth that, hey, I'm not fully choosing you, or I'm feeling like you're not fully choosing me. How does that land? And then either choosing to grow together to that next level to get to that as a focus, or to go on our separate ways. But if that's consistently not there, and that's straight up being owned by someone that, hey, I'm not fully choosing to be in this relationship, or being felt by the other person that I can see that I'm not being fully chosen by you in this relationship, I'm no longer going to choose to endure the suffering, because that is my self-worth, non-negotiable, for my own truth and my own self-worth. How does that all sit there?
Yeah, that lands, I mean, really beautifully as well, mate. I think that where you articulated, hey, I'm willing to work with you on this and we can grow together. You know, I'm very much a big believer in that. I think that's magic. But there also comes a point in time you say, and I've done that, and that's still not being met. So I need to choose myself.
Mm.
And that's where, you know, this self-worth thing, I've experienced this, is I watched my self-worth, especially over the last couple of months, just, it's like a death by a thousand cuts. You know, a little bit takes away, and then the next time a little bit takes away, and it wears you down. You start to question yourself. You start to think, sorry, I shouldn't say we. I start to question myself. I start to question myself then, and am I really all that I think that I am, and am I capable of all these things, and maybe I'm not good enough, and that's a very slippery slope, you know. And in that moment, it takes a lot of strength and a lot of fortitude to say, you know what, this is not healthy for me, and I need to put myself first.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yes, brother. I feel like this would be inspiring to a lot of people listening right now, and quite thought-provoking. So, again, guys, love to get your comments and thoughts. Please send them out to us. To feel into this, when you spoke earlier, I was feeling like I was just listening to you, doing my best to just witness you, not going to judgment, and just feeling you in my heart. And whether this relates to you or to other people, it definitely relates to me when I've been in that sort of situation. The deeper I go on the core of why, you know, all the reasons I'm choosing to stick around and give it one more go, and all the things, if I go through all the 3D things and come back to what's beneath it, and really come back to, there's part of me that has at times felt scared. I felt scared that, well, this is going to be really sad, you know, if this ends, or scared that, well, where to from here, or scared that, well, what if I don't meet someone else, or scared that, what am I going to do? Or it could even be, you know, if I didn't have a job or something, well, how am I going to pay the bills, or how am I going to get by with the housework, whatever, however small or big, how is the business going to go if we're 50%, or how's the living situation going to go if we live together, all those things, like. And the core thing that I come down to, so feeling in that, I was feeling there was part of me that felt scared, you know, I was feeling that feeling. And when I come down to how do I break that down, again, one of my other non-negotiables, and I'll say to the best of my ability, because obviously it's life and we've got to ebb and flow with it, but I'll say that it's love or fear. And for me, love or fear is if I'm confused, or start speaking story, or starting to feel these shadows coming up around possibly choosing something inauthentically, choosing something because I'm scared, or not saying something because I'm scared. I break that down to love or fear, and I really always doing my best to choose love for myself, love for the other, respectfully, love for their self-worth as much as my own self-worth. So when I've come down to that feeling of scared, I mean, like, is that feeling of being scared, is that love or fear? And obviously it's fear. So okay, that's my green light to, okay, I need to lean into this and speak into this right away and deal with this, and that's kind of my mission with how I go about things to the best of my ability. And yeah, sometimes I say too much, sometimes I make people upset, and but it's always the one thing that I've noticed through always speaking into the love is it always creates togetherness at the end. Whether that togetherness is actually in the 3D separation of going separate ways, I know that the respect and in the long run that will be, I don't actually know because their story might be something different. Like you bastard, like how could you just leave me? That's okay. But I know in the
Yeah.
space that I'm holding to speak my truth, like I can't not speak that truth because it's the truth. It's my truth in that moment, and if it's coming from love, then I stick by that. And in the long run, I feel through that I've been able to stay extremely connected and in a really what I would call healthy, not leak energy, not shady kind of way to a lot of my best friends in life, a lot of my ex-partners, a lot of the people in
Mm.
my life, and that boundary's there. It's not like, oh, are we going to get back together or anything? It's like, no, 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 no. This is clear and this is crystal clear, rock solid. This is how it's going to be. And there's a respect that comes with that. There's a safety and a trust within that space holding that I feel is uncompromisable. And even if they can't get through it in the 3D moment of like, that's bullshit, like, I'm never going to speak to you again, I'm like, cool. Well, if you ever would like to, I'm only ever a phone call away, and that's never going to change. Well, stuff you, I'm out of here. Cool. Well, I'm here for you if you know. And there's something in that that is a learning. You know, it's a rock solid energy that more often than not, there's that connection is kept. It might take some time to settle down, but in the long term, every single time for me, in the long term, it's been like, wow, that space that you held for me in that time, feel so safe in your energy, and or whatever it might be. Um, how's that land for you, brother?
Yeah, great, great way to sort of plant a seed of potential and possibility and removing that fear of they're not going to like me, they're not going to love me, they're going to hate me. It's just beautifully placed, mate. Very beautifully placed.
Mm.
Thank you for that. And yeah, it's that is the fear, is that I'm not going to be liked or loved, or I'm going to disappoint for choosing myself. But um, in doing so, I'm disappointing myself and prolonging the inevitable. So yeah, that was really, really well placed. Thank you, mate.
No, brother, feeling you, and we'll look so forward to seeing how this all pans out in real life over the
The
upcoming
weeks.
weeks. This is
And I think
yeah.
that was one of the things, like you brought that up today, is like you were aware of what was live for me, and you said, oh look, do you want to go there? And I'm like, yeah, 100%. Like that's what this is about. Hopefully someone listening to this may say me too, may resonate and not feel that they're alone. And I don't think that we provide any answers today, because that's not our role, but we shared our experiences, and you've planted a great couple of possibilities and potentials for people to maybe take on board. But the whole invitation is, which is what I'm inviting myself to do as I speak this, is to choose yourself in every moment and be okay with that. And I think what came through when you were just sharing that then is, usually, even if they do rebel or kick back or swear and carry on and decide to leave, even though you've held a beautiful space, usually, from my experience, the minute they leave, your central nervous system settles down and you go, okay, that was ugly, but I feel better
Yeah.
because you were true to yourself.
100%, brother. We had that chat in the podcast, our last podcast, when we were talking about parenting and children. And I was just saying to my partner last night, kind of inspired by that podcast, was, isn't that funny how with our daughter that when every time I kind of bring down that hammer when she's kind of flustered and losing her shit, and I have to, grab her and take her to bed, and she's screaming and kicking, and then she has the choice to stay there or do this. We always give her those choices. She makes her choice, and then the way she settles down almost instantly, and the amount of I love yous and her heart centered safety and trust just comes back tenfold, because I
Mm.
feel it's mostly because of that space that's been held where it's kind of the boundaries are clear, but the love is held. I haven't lost myself. I'm keeping my cool. But isn't that funny? And I feel it really relates to what you just said too, with us fully grown adults almost equally as a 5-year-old.
because there's a 5-year-old running around inside us, ultimately.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're speaking for us. So,
Yeah.
and ultimately, we all have a deep desire to be seen, to be heard, and to be held and loved. Our greatest desire, it's a survival mechanism, love. Especially as an infant, in those first 6 months, if there was a study done in 1975 where they didn't touch the babies, they just left them in the crib and dropped a bottle in. And then there was another group that were fed and mildly touched, and there was a group that was held constantly. And they had to stop the study because a couple of the babies in the non-touched cribs died, and it was unethical because they were not given love, and that doesn't leave us.
Wow.
Yeah.
Whew, it's heavy.
Heavy, right? But that's our deep desire to love is we're born into that,
Yeah.
and as a role, as a human being, our role, or not our role, but our opportunity is to ascend back to love. We've fallen into this world of duality, of good, bad, right, wrong, this world of this bipolar world that we live in. And our role, the invitation for us is to evolve back to singularity, which is love,
Yeah.
the original thought, or the original, everything was created and born of love. And everything outside of that is a distortion of love, as you said, love or fear. And so love is a strong, strong energy, not the emotion. The energy of love runs through everything that we be, do, and have.
Yeah.
Wow, that's landing for me right now.
And without
Yeah,
one, we can't have the other, right? Like, it's equally as fear or hate and love. It's they're equally, without one, you can't have the other. So,
yeah.
and at the end of the day, just to finish this up, my 5-year-old loves playing with your 5-year-old, and I reckon if we were hanging out, we were five, we would have been best friends.
We're
And
a great,
yeah.
we're a great.
Awesome, brother. Love you so much, and yeah, we'll see these all these beautiful listeners in the next episode.
We will. Thank you, brother.